There's a new Spider-Man movie out, and in that new movie, Peter Parker is asked one simple question: who are you? And for the first time, he doesn't know how to answer that simple question. But that is not just Peter's crisis. It is the crisis that so many teenagers right now are living through today. When their grades fail, when their friendships implode, when anxiety takes over, when they begin believing that they are the problem child, they quietly begin asking the same question: who am I really?
And the part that most parents miss is that we're trying so hard to fix that behavior that we accidentally reinforce their very confused beliefs about themselves. And that is what is causing the poor behavior in the first place. Today, we're going to show you what Spider-Man gets exactly right about helping a child discover who they really are and why that changes everything.
Spider-Man for the win.
Yep.
All right, so across the Spider-Man trilogy, across the MCU, the Marvel Cinematic Universe, Peter loses almost everything as we go through the trilogy. All the things that he thought defined who he was, created his identity. First, he loses his suit.
That's bad news.
Right? He says, I can't do it without the suit. Who am I without the suit?
Right.
And Tony Stark's response is, if you can't do it without the suit, you don't get the suit. You don't deserve the suit.
Yeah.
So he loses the suit. And then he loses his mentor. He loses Tony Stark as a mentor.
So sad.
And then he loses his reputation.
Yeah.
No one remembers him. He loses his friends, right? He's losing all these things that he thought made up who he was, that he thought were his identity.
Yeah.
Until there's just one question that remains. That is, if you take away all of that, who is left? And that's the question that the Brand New Day movie answers. So there's this scene when he's sitting with Aunt May, who is like his mother. And it's the memory of a conversation that he has with her, and he's hurting and he's lost and he's feeling so discouraged, just like our teenagers do today. And she is so present and encouraging, and she tells him that she loves him. And it's not because of his powers or anything that he's done. It's because of who he is. She loves him for being Peter. She loves him as Peter, not because he's stronger, not because he's better than anybody else, not because of any of the things that he's even striving to do or become. She reminds him who he has always been.
It was so beautiful. Tears were running down our face in the movie theater because it was so profound. That's exactly what we want our children to know about themselves.
Right. This is the whole key. And so every teenager eventually asks the same question, maybe not with their words, but with every poor decision that they make, every outburst that they make, every time they say, leave me alone or just get out of my face, every failure, they're trying to figure out whether they still have value in this world. When they feel like they're falling apart, when they feel like they can't make a difference, when they feel like they're succeeding and they're just not able. That's why this matters so much for us as parents. Our kids don't just need better behavior. They need to know who they are. They need a stronger identity.
That is the crux, because your child will never consistently live beyond that identity that they believe about themselves. And when they discover that divine worth, their true identity, then their behavior starts to improve. And that is what our greatest influence is. It's not in changing their behavior. It's in helping them discover who they really are.
Let's go. All right, so the first step that we need to focus on here is separating identity from behavior. Behavior, when we look at behavior, behavior is answering the question, what did they do? Identity answers a different question. It answers the question, who are they?
Yeah.
And as parents, we often blur those two things together. We confuse them.
It's so easy.
Right?
Yeah.
And the reality is that God never does. He doesn't confuse those two. Yeah. He never confuses a person's struggle with their identity. And we see that in the stories in the scriptures. The woman at the well, the woman taken in adultery, all the right, Zacchaeus in the tree. He doesn't conflate their problems, their issues, the things that they have done with their divine worth.
Yeah.
And neither should we. When our children know that today's mistake doesn't define tomorrow's future, that's when hope begins to grow.
So cool. So cool. Okay, and the second step we want to do is act as a mirror for our child. Before they can see themselves clearly on their own, they're going to see themselves through our eyes. And instead of seeing themselves reflected back with this disappointment or this discouragement, because if that's what we're feeling and that's what we're reflecting, that's what they're going to feel. Instead, when they constantly hear, and more importantly, feel, I know this isn't who you really are. I see courage in you. I see kindness. I see someone God created for incredible things. Then something begins to change. And eventually, usually much sooner than we believe possible, they start believing it too. That's what we want, and that's what we need, is for them to believe that. And we can't just magically make them believe it, but when we start to believe it ourselves, not just fake believe it, but actually believe it, and actually borrow from God's belief in them, that's where we get it. It's from believing what God believes about them.
Yes.
And we change that belief in ourselves, then they can actually feel it too.
We feel it. God feels it first. We feel it second.
Yeah.
And then they feel it.
Yeah.
So good.
It is amazing.
Yeah. All right. This third step now is to become the safest person in the storm. We want to play that role that Aunt May did for Peter. Peter doesn't become free, right? So there's a cool transformation that happens in the movie. Won't give it away.
No spoilers.
No spoilers. Right? But it's 100% because of what Aunt May does for him. He becomes free because his identity is no longer dependent on his perceived roles or his results, the things that he does. Now, here's the thing. Parents can do the same thing. You can do the same thing. If our peace depends on our child's choices, we'll always react. We'll panic. We'll try to control them. But if our peace comes from remembering who we are, if your peace comes from remembering who you are, then you become the steady place that your child can return to. Because the only way to consistently remind your child who they are is to first remember who you are, to have that calm, steady, sure foundation, to be the safe place in the storm.
We want to be in a place where we're no longer feeling like every difficult conversation is a test we have to pass. Can you imagine not panicking every time your child makes a bad choice, or seeing beyond today's behavior to the incredible child that is in front of you, the son and daughter of God that God is still shaping? Your child might not change overnight. Our kids didn't change overnight. We didn't change overnight, but something just as important will. We'll stop parenting from fear when we do these three things. We'll stop and we'll start parenting from hope. Our home will become less about fixing people and more about reminding each other about who God says we already are. Our worth is constant and it is high. That's where the healing begins. That's where the confidence grows. And that's where real freedom and real influence are born. Every child first learns who they are through the eyes of someone else. So the question isn't just, who does my child believe they are? It's, when they look into my eyes, who do they see reflected back?
If you're in the middle of your own awful storm right now, we want you to know something so important. That is that you are not alone. You don't have to go this path alone. There are times when you need to be reminded, just like your child, that you are beautiful, that you are worthy, that you are enough, and that you are needed. That's why we created the Parenting Heroes community, a safe place, a safe harbor where you can be with other parents who are going through similar struggles. You'll find that you're not alone, that there are others who are going through the same exact things that you are. They feel the same things that you feel. And as you're there with them, you'll be encouraged, you'll be strengthened, you will find hope again. So our invitation for you is to join us in the Parenting Heroes community. Click the link below, because your child is already asking, who am I? And the question is, what answer will they see reflected in your eyes?